name's Christian Putong. This is the Humble and Dope Show. Back with another video. I just want to kind of react to something about one of my favorite basketball players, and yeah, big one is because he's Asian and Christian. Jeremy Lin had an interesting comment, so I wanted to give you guys a video and react to it. So here we go.
When I was in the US growing up playing basketball, it was always like, oh, that's the Asian guy. And so I was like, oh, when I'm in America, nobody thinks I'm American. And then I go to the CBA and then they're like, oh, you're a foreigner, right? Even though like I'm Asian, I mean, I'm Asian skinned and Asian blood, like I was considered a foreigner. And so I always complain to you, like, dude, it always feels like wherever I'm at, they always call me something else. Then you always like say, like, well, that gives you a chance to be a bridge.
I think that honestly is part of the Asian American experience. We are able to adapt to a lot of different environments as immigrant children, but we might never actually feel fully a sense of belonging in a lot of different spaces. And we have learned how to carve out places of belonging for ourselves, but we've also learned how to turn that not feeling fitting in, you have learned to turn that into a strength on the court too, right? Like it allows you to work with so many different people, to learn from so many different mindsets, and to bridge a lot of different communities.
I remember this was years ago when I went to go teach overseas. Then this was back when I was working with kids and teenagers and whatnot, where I got asked to teach and guest speak in Malaysia, and this is with folks from all of Singapore, Malaysia, uh, Burma slash Myanmar, however, whichever name it goes by. I want to include both because I don't know. Uh, I remember when I originally went to Singapore for the first time, and obviously, it's pretty much going to be majority Asian folks. But it was really jarring, to think about because growing up here stateside in Nashville, and it's probably different if you're like in Cali or New York, Atlanta, Houston, someplace with a huge Asian population. But when you grow up in Nashville, and Nashville is even more diverse than the rest of the state, but that's not really saying much. It kind of feels like it's obvious that if you're an Asian person, uh, with our surrounding as far as the demographics, it's very much you kind of in no man's land as far as like you don't really see a lot of people that look like you on a regular basis. I saw like family and maybe friends, church, temple, but just in public, it's kind of you're on your own kind of deal. So it's interesting going back to going over to Singapore, Malaysia, whatnot, and even like going back to Thailand when I was in high school. It feels weird being not the minority when you're a minority pretty much all the time. You know, and we got Asian representation, uh, media kinda now, but still kind of And I thought this would be an interesting topic to talk about during AAPI Heritage Month, month of May, just celebrating all things Asian American Pacific Islander. Now, for those of you guys that don't know, but what he talks about just is not fully like belonging. And for those of you guys that don't know, Jeremy Lin, he was most well known for his time with the Knicks, which are on a playoff run right now. As of this video, the whole Lin Sandy thing where he just went off. And it's high, it's scoring 38 on the Lakers with Kobe, which was crazy. And somehow winning a ring with the Raptors and still like having to play overseas because no teams want to give him another chance despite those accolades. It seems silly, but I remember I told this like, man, there's a lot of Asian people, in Singapore, and they laughed or whatnot. I don't think yeah, Asian people in Asia really understand what that's like to kind of be kind of on your own. You know, I remember growing up and being maybe one of two, if we were lucky, or if I was lucky, two Asian people in my class for like most of like elementary and middle school. And the thing about like representation is like if you don't see it, in your everyday life, then you have to kind of go to media. And if you don't see it in media, then it's like it kind of falls on you. So for me, if one of my white friends or my black friends they were weird, then it was just, oh, that person's weird. But why it was weird because there was a lot of Asian folks that they could reference, not a lot of Asian folks that they saw like in movies or TV shows. I by default represented all Asian people. So if I was weird, the presumption was all Asian people must be weird, and that's a lot. And I'm sure Asian kids growing up don't have nearly the same expectations, but they probably understand what it's like to feel be treated as other, as the foreigner. So to give an idea, I mean, this kind of struggle of being Asian American, where we're too Asian for Americans and too American for Asians, it's it's our equivalents, the Asian equivalents of black people when they code switch, where it's like when they're in a corporate environment, they have to speak a certain way, whereas uh, when they're in a more casual environment among family friends, they can kind of not have to speak in a professional setting. They can just be more relaxed, like a lot of us have the luxury to do, which we, oftentimes take for granted. So, and I empathize a lot with folks that have gone through that. That feel like they don't belong. But one of the few upsides of this, of being Asian American, presuming that uh, you're not in a Asian majority area or haven't completely like given into that type of internalized racism that comes when you've got no one to connect with and kind of having to sell out to fit in or not be the complete butt of someone's jokes or whatnot. One of the few upsides is that you kind of learn how to survive. You learn how to be adaptable, as she mentioned. You learn how to kind of know how to fit in, within different settings. You know, I know that the way I am with my family is different with the way I'm with my friends. It's the way I'm within, when I used to work, in different friend groups or different workplaces, just being able to be very adjustable, and, and some people would say it's being fake, but it's not so much being fake, it's just knowing how to adjust, sometimes some friend groups, I could turn on my personality. Other times I can kind of go along with other people's personalities. At work, I can know when to be professional, but also how to cut the tension. Things like that. So I don't know how many people watching is actually Asian American, but if you are, or definitely if you are Asian American, or if you're not, I'm curious. If you're Asian American, have you dealt with this, or have you ever felt this before? That kind of weird, jarring experience when you're with a lot of Asian people, or is it just kind of so-so? And if you're not Asian American, you know, do you feel like people that are, Asian American, do you feel like they have this kind of dual personality, or is it just like, oh, that's just what's his face or what's her face? let me know what you think. Make sure you like and subscribe, and also follow us on Facebook. We have a Facebook page, and I'll post that up in the comments. Let us know what you think and comments before. All right, love you guys.